All right, so we are going to finish up decolonization. Last time we talked about decolonization in India and in Asia, and today we're going to talk about how decolonization has really affected Europe and Latin America. So the first area that we're going to talk about is in the Balkan Peninsula. And if you'll remember, going back to World War I, we talked about how a lot of that area was colonized and how they wanted their independence, and that Balkan area was such a powder keg of tension. And it remains that way because of all of the ethnic groups. If you'll remember, all the way back to the Ottoman Empire, that was once Ottoman land, and the Ottomans allowed people to live any religion, any ethnicity, as long as they paid the special tax. So that grew into lots of different groups living in that area, not paying any regard to ethnicity. And once the Ottoman Empire falls and they start to split up and want their independence, that's going to create a lot of that tension. So you're going to have this ethnic conflict in that area of Yugoslavia. Remember, Yugoslavia was created in the Treaty of Versailles. That was with the boundaries that were drawn. And the ethnic conflict in Yugoslavia is going to be between the Serbs, the Croats, the Muslims, the Slovenes, Macedonians, and the Montenegrins. And they're all going to want their own independent state. After World War II, Yugoslavia is going to get split up into 6 different republics, and that is going to each have a mixed population. So those lines are going to be drawn with no regard to ethnicity, and that's going to cause a lot of tension. All right, so Joseph Tito, he is going to be the ruler of Yugoslavia from 1945 to 1980, and his rule is really going to help keep Yugoslavia together. They're going to really be united under him. But when he dies in 1980, and when the Soviet Union and communism starts to collapse, this ethnic resentment is going to come back, and the people are going to want their own independent nations. They're going to want to have their independence, and so it's going to be more resentment, more tension in that Balkan area. What's going to cause even more tension is the Serb Slobodan Milosevic is going to come into power, and he was a Serb, and he is going to assert Serbian control over all of Yugoslavia. And this is going to make some people really upset. And so when this happens, Slovenia and Croatia are going to declare their independence from Yugoslavia in 1991. And Milosevic is going to send Yugoslav Serb troops into Slovenia and Croatia, and they're going to have a very bloody battle and bloody interaction, and eventually Slovenia and Croatia are going to be able to declare independence, but it's not going to be to the happiness of the Serbs. Also, Bosnia and Herzegovina are going to declare independence in 1992. Again, not making the Serbs very happy. And so at this time, Yugoslavia is going to be made up of Serbia, Montenegro, and Kosovo. So this is going to kind of be what it's going to look like after that happens, after Bosnia, Herzegovina, Croatia, and Slovenia, after they break off. This is going to lead into a very large war. Bosnia is going to be split up ethnically after they claim independence. 44% Muslim, 31% Serb, and 17% Croat. So the Bosnian Serbs that are living in Bosnia, that the Serbs are going to oppose independence because they are Serbs and they don't want to be independent from Yugoslavia, which is made up of also Serbia. And so there's going to be lots of fighting between the Christian Serbs and the Bosnian Muslims. And the Serbs in Serbia are going to come in and they're going to help the Christian Serbs living in Bosnia. And this is going to lead to a bloody, just kind of horrific war. And the Serbs are going to use the tactic of ethnic cleansing, which is just a form of genocide that's going to attempt to exterminate all of the Bosnian Muslims. So they are going to use murder and brutality in this ethnic genocide or ethnic cleansing to try and exterminate all of the Muslims living in Bosnia. So you're going to have the Serb Christians against the Bosnian Muslims, and the Croats were also involved in this. Tension still remains today. By 1995, the Serbs controlled about 70% of Bosnia. In 1996, the 3 groups are going to sign a peace treaty. So the Muslim Bosnians, the Christian Serbs, and the Catholic Croats, they are going to all sign a peace agreement. But They're going to be able to elect a 3-person presidency, but there's still going to be lots of unrest in that Balkan region. In 1998, the Serbs are going to attack Muslims living in Kosovo because Kosovo wanted their independence. And Kosovo is just a province in southern Serbia. So NATO is going to step in. We remember NATO from after the Cold War. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization is going to step in and begin bombing against Yugoslavia. And the Yugoslav leaders are going to withdraw from Kosovo. So the Serb leaders are eventually going to be charged with committing crimes against humanity, and that is going to include Milosevic. So the Serbs are going to be heavily punished for their ethnic cleansing and their attacking of the Muslims there in Kosovo. All right. Latin America is another region where we have seen decolonization, and that actually happens in the late 1800s or in the mid 1800s. We talked about those independence movements in Latin America. But what we didn't discuss is some of the problems that were brought on after the Latin American countries are able to gain independence. So you're going to have class divisions, lots of social class division going on. One-crop economies and very powerful militaries are going to be left in these areas. And many of their leaders are going to be more interested in their personal power and how they can gain more power than instituting democracy. So Latin America is going to be left kind of in shambles after they establish independence. One place where it's left and they have lots of hard times is going to be in Argentina. After Juan Perón leaves power in the mid-1970s, Argentina is going to be in chaos. The economy isn't going to be in ruins because of the Perón rule. The terrorism is going to be huge. And in 1976, the military generals are able to seize power and establish a military dictatorship. Under this dictatorship, people are going to be murdered, tortured, and kidnapped by their own government. So it was just going to be literally a reign of terror and just a horrible regime in Argentina. And a group called the Las Madres de la Plaza de Mayo are going to be formed, and that's going to be a group formed by mothers and relatives demanding information about their children, or the desaparecidos, which are going to be the disappeared children. Argentina is going to go to war with Great Britain over the Falkland Islands, but Margaret Thatcher is going to send her troops from Great Britain and be able to defeat the Argentine generals, and that is what's going to force them to step down. So that defeat in the Falkland Islands. But you're going to see this unrest and this military dictatorship that kind of comes in and takes over Argentina and leads to lots of problems during the mid-70s and 80s. Also in El Salvador and in Cuba and in Chile, you're going to have lots of problems. We know about Fidel Castro. He's responsible for the murder of lots of people in Cuba who are criticizing his rule. In Chile, you're going to have another military government that tortures and kills any opponents. But El Salvador is also going to have a dictatorship, and they use death squads to gun down any reformers. And one very famous reformer was the Archbishop Oscar Romero, and he is assassinated for supporting any reforms and getting any kind of speaking out against human rights and oppression. And that is his picture right there. And he was an archbishop for the Catholic Church. So he is kind of remembered for being a person who supported human rights and wanted to speak out against repression. Okay, so let's wrap up this decolonization. I know this was rather short, so you guys are probably happy. But tell me, first of all, how did the genocide in the Balkans begin? Who was fighting, and why did they institute a genocide on certain people? Tell me what the role of the Las Madres de la Plaza de Mayo was. What did they do, and why were they formed as an activist group? And tell me about the role of Oscar Romero in the fight for rights in El Salvador. Okay, bring these questions to class complete, and we will discuss them next time.